Hey, Dennis O'Brien back on Let's Talk About It. I am so glad to be back here again, and I'm really excited tonight to have Neil Weathers. He is the Assistant Superintendent of Windham Public Schools on the show. I met Neil, I've met Neil before, but I last saw him at the Three Kings Day ceremony over at the new community center, and we talked about him coming on the show, and I just never followed up. And I'm so busy, and I guess, he didn't follow up because it was my responsibility to call him. But today we were able to make an arrangement and on relatively short notice, and Neil is here with us today talking about Windham Public Schools. So glad to have you on the show, Neil.
I am so glad to have you, Neil, too, as well. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm so glad that we have Neil Weathers, and I've also worked with Neil on a lot of projects here in town. They've been very, very helpful working with the school and the police department and the students and making all kinds of different things together that have really helped our students in the Windham Public Schools. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I've been in the district now for, I think this is going into my 9th year. I think I've been here for 8 years. This is I can't even believe I'm saying this, my 5th year as assistant superintendent. It's a great community, a great district, so I'm really, really pleased. And I brought some cheat sheet notes here to talk about some of the highlights, but there's a lot of cool things happening in the district.
Well, we love it here. We've been here since 1974. Susan, we
That's
moved here,
right, Dennis,
and
yes.
I'm from New Britain originally. Where you're familiar with New Britain, we may talk about that. But this is a lot like a smaller New Britain. It also has a state university. It's
Yes.
Eastern Connecticut State, which New Britain. Back when I was a kid, New Britain Central was called New Britain State Teachers College, and I went there for a short time, and it was called Central Connecticut State College, and then it became a university. And anyway, Neil, you went there.
Yes, I went to Central. That's
Great
right.
school.
It is a great school. I went there. I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and then I got my 092 certificate actually down in New Haven at Southern. But that was my path.
You've been around to the state, 4 state universities, but some of them anyway.
Yeah.
You skipped Danbury, I guess. You got New Haven, and here we have Eastern. I know you're doing some work with Eastern. But anyway, it's great to have you on the show, and there's so much going on in Windham Public Schools, so many great things. One of the things that I'm proudest of, and Susan certainly is proudest of, is the high school renovation. Because I played a role in that, and Susan played a huge role.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't have been done without you, Dennis. And so I just want to say, Dennis made sure that the work that everybody had been doing on the building committee actually got pushed through, and that the town finally got a hold of the plan and presented it to the state. And so here we are, and it's in the process. I don't know how far along you are. It looks like you're probably a little more than halfway through.
Oh, more, yeah.
And then Senator Flexer and I, we were thrilled we were able to get the 95% reimbursement for the entire project, not just the school part, also the administrative part. And so we are very, very happy, and that's saved about, listen folks, that's saved about $17 million for the town of Windham. And we get the brand new school. And the things that people were worried about that we bonded for, it's just really taken care of it. Plus, we're having a school that's up to date with HVAC, with computer technology, all the kinds of things that make everybody want to go to a school that's got all these new things. And I guess we had the governor there last spring.
Yes, he has visited there, yes.
And the students had little proposals on things to do with the school system. So we'll leave it at that. But I'm just thrilled that we have a beautiful new high school, and the students, I think, are thrilled, and they know that the town cares about them.
Yeah, so we are super appreciative of that 95 reimbursement rate. Just so you know, so thank you. The building looks amazing. It's still being renovated, so there's still some construction. But if you have an opportunity to visit the high school, I just recommend you go and see it. It looks beautiful. The new spaces, the students love having the new space. just took a tour with our Board of Ed during our Board of Education retreat, and we walked through, and it was just beautiful. In September of the 24-25 school year, our early childhood center is going to move in that part, and a brand new center. They're absolutely thrilled about that, and who can blame them in this gorgeous space. One of the celebrations I have listed is our high school football team. We're league champions for the first time since 2016.
Amazing.
Yes.
Go Whippets.
Yeah, go Whippets. And actually, there was a Hartford Courant article on junior captain Malachi Fowler, who is very happy to be a Whippet, right? So we're very excited about that. And that was played on the brand new turf field as part of the construction project, which is a beautiful space. So not only did I get an opportunity to see some of the football games, soccer games, just things always occurring at the field. It's just beautiful. And when the softball and baseball fields get renovated, that's just going to be such a gorgeous space, and for like the students to be able to use that. So I wanted to give them a shout out and thank you for mentioning the renovation project, because I think it's really important for the school community in the town.
Oh, it's fantastic. And our good friend and yours, Randall Prose, is very happy about that field. He's very happy about the renovation. In fact, Randall and I served together on the town council for 6 years, and we worked on that thing. And because it had to go through the town council, because as you know, the buildings are owned by the town, not by the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed runs the school system, no question.
Sure.
But I represent a lot of towns, and I have in the past, and there's a lot of people that just don't understand that sometimes there's a clash. But I'll tell you what, the Board of Education and Windham Public Schools is working beautifully with town government, and that's fantastic, and that can be rare. But it's fantastic, and Randall is very happy, and we're so pleased with him. He's doing a great job as coach, and I know he's happy about that field.
Yeah, he is happy, and I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for his assistant coaches and the students, and it was just a great season.
Yep.
And because last year construction was happening in the field, the team got a more majority of home games, which was nice to take advantage of the new field space.
This year, yeah, but last year they were on the road for the whole season.
Yes.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
But they had a even better record last year. But I guess they lost a lot of players from last year. Next year they're going to come back with most of these guys, including the fellow you mentioned.
Yeah. So yes, but one of the great things about this year's team was that they've made the state playoffs for 2 years in a row.
That's right.
Even though they lost all those players, so good things to come.
Yeah. They got a lot of younger players that are key players now, and so things are looking up with Randall, and I know Rob Manguel. Rob Manguel and I have co-coached the basketball team together for little kids, and so I know him very well.
Great.
He's great. He's great.
And while we're on athletics, so I don't forget, there are actually 50 fall athletes that earned high honors on the honor roll.
Great.
And then all of our sports, we had 16 student athletes named to the ECC all-conference teams and 4 additional student athletes who received honorable mention. So a lot of cool things are happening with our sports, and we're really proud of it.
Fantastic. You know, of course, that your superintendent was a 4-time all-conference first baseman at AIC.
I do know that.
She doesn't... When she comes on the show, I always bring it up because I coached softball for years and I played fast pitch when I was younger, when men played it all the time. And I'll tell you, she's very modest about it. But to be 4 times all conference Division II, that's higher than Eastern at AIC, all conference first baseman. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That to me, it's a real big deal.
I agree.
So yeah. She's great.
Yeah, she is great. She's
I'm
awesome.
sure she's great to work with, too.
She absolutely is.
And as I always tell the kids, playing sports is good training for life because you learn how to mess up and bounce back. And you learn how to accept failure and success.
Yes, I completely...
Among many other things.
Absolutely. And while I'm just thinking, because it's not here, so I give love to all the sports, one thing for the fall sports is that every team participated in the state tournament, which is that doesn't commonly happen. So our soccer teams both did. Obviously, our cross country went to the state meet. So that happened in all of our fall sports. So I just want to give kudos to everybody.
I think it used to happen years ago, but we've had a dry spell, and it's really picking up. And and everybody has played a role in this, including the administration. It's fantastic. So people are really pulling together in support of Windham Public Schools, and we want to keep it that way.
Yes. And while I'm in the spirit of celebrations, something that also happened, this is like a tradition. Sweeney, Thanksgiving just passed recently, had their 41st Thanksgiving, their Sweeney Feast, it's called. They've had it for 41 years now. And so they have it. The students are all there. They do a ceremony. A lot of the staff is invited across the district. It's, to me, one of my favorite things about the district. I've now gotten to my fair share of them. It's just a fantastic sense of community. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that while I was talking about the learning environments. And then something I actually got to go see, because I love chess. Right before Thanksgiving, Nat Chug School hosted a chess tournament. They had 41 of their students do the chess tournament.
Impressive.
And
That's great.
I went and participated. I might have lost a game to someone, but I enjoyed it. I love chess, but it was great to see those students. And then there's a moment where some of the younger students came and were watching their siblings. Just a really great moment. So that's some of the cool stuff going on.
That's such a great thing for brain development too, and interaction and strategizing. And I don't play chess at all, but I've read about
it.
I have read about it, and it sounds to me like something that maybe someday I'll take it up. But
It's a great game.
I'll be too late probably for me to do much of anything with it.
Never too late. Never too late.
All right, I'll take that advice.
Yeah, and then and just while I'm thinking of all our schools, our North Windham. North Windham's, their second grade team held their first math academy for parents. So they spent the evening modeling math strategies and games with parents. So that's always really exciting. And the parents left with sessions with additional materials from our primary curriculum resource, which is Eureka Math, for various math games. So that's something that's going on.
And this is something that's very interesting because math is not the same, at least when I look at my grandchildren's mathematic homework. It's nowhere near like anything that I did or our child did. It's just very, very different the way they present math.
Absolutely. So this is near and dear to my heart. So when I was in Meriden, I was a math supervisor. So I completely agree. It's funny, sometimes people refer to it as the new math, which is kind of like humorous because it's actually thousands of years old, the concepts. But what we do is now, instead of, say, when I was in school, where we jumped to the traditional algorithm, which, is there because it's so efficient, they spend a little more time building concepts of what's happening, and then they move the students, though, to traditional algorithms, which sometimes is a misunderstanding. But you're right. A lot of parents, some people actually sometimes have degrees in math. We're like, I didn't do it this way when I was in school. So parent education and just being supportive and realizing that when they go home, making sure that the right supports are in place in school and home to help students learn.
It was really something that, when you take a look at the way I was trained and the way our daughter, or I thought our daughter should be trained. I had my own ideas, of course, but
Always.
the Trachtenberg theories. But anyway, we won't go there. But it is first of all memorization, and and that's how I looked at it for years and years. But of course, that doesn't get into then everybody, if all they do is the memorization. When you get to the algebra, you go, what? Because you don't have the understanding.
When I went to algebra,
you went
I
what?
did what?
Right. Yeah.
But I knew all those multiplication tables.
Yeah.
I had it cold.
Yeah, but so I'm glad that North Windham did that. And while I'm on the theme of our elementary school, something that's really cool, switching away from math, is Windham Center was highlighted in the Chronicle recently. They did a school-wide celebration. Their staff supported Movember. And it was a fundraiser to benefit the No Freeze Shelter and the Covenant Soup Kitchen and the fight against food insecurities within the community. So they were able to do that. That was wonderful.
Well, that's a great thing, and it also connects the students here with the whole community and a lot of the things that we're doing. And of course, tomorrow is the David Foster concert to raise the money for the soup kitchen, and it's sold out, everybody. So thanks for all the listeners who helped buy the tickets. But it's something that this community has a big heart, and has done a great deal of work to support people who need help. And people can get, get their start here and move on, go to the university or go to the tech school or wherever, and go out and make a good living and be able to move further in their lives with their house and their family and all that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
One great thing about this community, like many of the communities that you've already been in, like Meriden, New Britain, where you went to undergraduate school, New Haven, where you got your one of your advanced degrees, we're welcome. We welcome everybody. Everybody is welcome in Willimantic, USA, or Windham, USA.
Sure.
We don't keep people out.
No, we are an inclusive community.
We are very extremely inclusive, and that's and diverse.
Yes.
In so many different ways, and that's great. That is a great learning experience for me. Always has been. I was lucky enough to grow up in New Britain, which even back then was relatively diverse.
Yeah.
And it was beneficial to me, no question.
Demographically, we are we have a very interesting demographics that really were unique. We have similarities to our Durgai counterparts, like your Waterbury, Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, that are larger, New London, that is similar in size, but we have about close to 1 out of 3 students in Windham is an English learner. We have about 20% students that are special education. Like you said, diversity. Actually, I think it's about 71% of our students are Hispanic or Latino, Latina. And then I think about 77% of our population comes from a minority population.
Right.
Across the district, and I think getting into acronyms, our English learner population is actually the highest percentage-wise in the entire state of the Connecticut.
I was just going to say that.
Susan mentions that. She says that all the time.
No. You're the guest. You should say that. But it's something that we'll just take a little sidestep on this for a second, because one of the things that I heard when I first got that Windham had too many special needs kids, and so I went and looked into some of that. And one of the things that they said, we need to do more with English language learning. So the first thing that I was able to do as a first-term legislator is create a task force to study English language learning problems. And then the follow-up session, we did even more. We had another task force, and this time the new speaker even wanted to do more. So we got more people who were involved in the English language learning issues. And of course, here in Windham, we're so progressive. We have one of the best dual language programs. Other towns have put dual language programs together, but they haven't been like the force of nature that our dual language program is in. So many of the parents here, English speaking parents, have put their children in the dual language program, and they're thrilled. Their kids come right through the school system, in through college, speaking Spanish, speaking English. It really is a dual language program. It really does help the kids in college. And by the way, I just have to say this, with respect to brain development, and when you get older, your brain is better when you know 2 languages instead of 1.
So I think one of our strengths, I really appreciate you bringing that up, is our dual language program. We actually have 2. We have our one-way program, and we have our 2-way program, Compañeros, which has been around, as we were discussing for the show, 30 years. As a matter of fact, more information will be coming out in the community, but there will definitely be a birthday celebration for Compañeros celebrating 30 years.
Right.
And it really is something that the district should celebrate across the state, because it's really a model. Other districts come to watch our dual language program, to learn from it, and either improve their own existing program or to bring it. And sometimes it's not just in Connecticut, it's sometimes from the area, neighboring states. So it's something to celebrate for sure.
Absolutely. Great work. Great. We should be so proud of that work.
Susan's been on the education committee at the legislature for her entire time she's been there. She's been there for a while. And that was one thing that, when you first go to the legislature, I should let you tell it, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. You're allowed to, offer your choices as to what committees you want to be on. And, she immediately said, we've got to be on education. Education is the key issue. I think education is the key issue, period. I've been asked to get involved in all kinds of movements, environmental stuff like that. But I said in my spare time, I'd rather work helping public education, because that's, if you educate everybody to the extent that they're able to benefit from it, I think most of the problems that we have in this world would be fixed. I really do.
And I see a progression too. So having there was a kind of a resistance to dealing with dual language learners, or a resistance to people that had a home language that wasn't English. And I think that we're coming out of that now, because I keep saying, hey, we're in an international economy, folks. And most every other country you go to has people there speak more than one language. And we should, if we want to really do something with our economy, we need to understand people from other economies that have different languages. So it is an economic boon. It is something that really helps people when they move on through whatever it is, technical school, college, however you choose to go. It really is something that is quite necessary. And it's something that I go into the history of the country. When everybody was trying to make it into one country, they wanted everybody to have the same language. Okay, yeah, I agree. We should all have the same language, but we should also have another language that we learn. And they can do it in Europe. We can do it here. They can do it in other countries all throughout the world. We can do it here. So language learning is really, really important, and it's something that we are very good at right here. But it was that, and then it was also special education. It was also getting the education cost sharing grant up to date. Finally, since Weicker was governor and he shut down doing the right thing with the education cost sharing grant, we finally are fully funded by 2025-2026. So I am absolutely thrilled that we finally got that pushed through. And now we have a special task force to deal with special education. Because guess what, folks? We haven't changed the formula for funding special education since Meskel was governor, okay? 1974. All right? That's when we created it. And I think that we know a lot more about learning now than we did in 1974. And at the time that this whole thing was set up, we did not have any standards for special education from the state. It's town by town. So whatever town you're in, it's going to be whatever they think you need to do for special education. It's pretty limited in terms of something having a pervasive standard by the state. So that's something our task force is looking at now, and we have great people all throughout the state working on this, people from all different types of educational backgrounds who are focused on this. So I'm very, very excited about finally getting special education and having people understand the convoluted, complicated funding system that's there. 4.5 times the pupil cost, 80% by the state, and then another 20% by the town again. So that's going to be fixed, and it should be, I think, on another model that's similar to the education cost sharing grant model.
So I just want to thank you for that, especially the part about the ECS grant, because one of my tasks is every year I do the Alliance grant, which is obviously the for listeners at home or in your cars or wherever you may be. The Alliance grant is the education side of the ECS money. So every year we complete a grant of how we're allocating those funds. And Representative Johnson is exactly correct. Like, we've had an increase in funds thanks to her advocacy. So we've put those funds to support our students. And it's great because that money is not part of the general referendum budget, but that is a very, not permanently stable source, but very reliable source of revenue that we can count on year in and year out to make sure our programs are sustainable. So we're very, very, very appreciative.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for those kind words, and it's something that we will make sure. We'll be working to make sure that it's stable funding, because I know that in the past, sometimes the money from the state looks like it's not stable, maybe. But this is when you look at the education cost sharing grant itself and the Alliance district money, and all it means simply is the Alliance money is queued in that goes straight to the school instead of through the town, and that's how that is. That's the systemic way that it works. So all all the money that was back in the day still comes through the town. All the Alliance money comes directly to the school, and anyway, that's how we're making it all work together. So I just wanted to be clear on that. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with Mr. Withers. He is the superintendent of schools, the assistant superintendent of schools.
No promotion, please.
Sorry, Tracy. And and Dennis O'Brien, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Okay, you can let me say something. Dennis O'Brien here on Let's Talk About It with Matt Rupar, our producer, of course, Susan Johnson, my co-host, state representative, Susan Johnson, and Mr. Neil Weathers, who is the assistant superintendent of schools, Windham Public Schools, which has got to be a big job. I think some school systems have more than one assistant superintendent.
Varying on school sizes. So right now we operate with one assistant superintendent
Right.
and the superintendent.
Right.
But there are some of the bigger Durg I and
Sure.
Durg H school that have multiple
Definitely.
assistant superintendents. What's kind of neat right now is the superintendent, Dr. Youngberg, and myself. Because of our collective experiences, they kind of work well together. Our
Yeah.
strengths fit each other.
Sure.
So for myself, I was mentioning earlier, I used to be a supervisor in math in Meriden. Then when I came here, I was sort of like the data person and oversaw the assessment. Tracy has worked at the building level, at the middle school level, the elementary level, and has been the assistant superintendent herself.
Right.
So those combination of roles have helped us kind of work it out together and figure out how to cover the whole district.
Yeah, you have complementary skill sets.
Complementary, yes. Thank
with
you.
a complementary with an E instead of an I.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. I mean, you can tell. I mean, it's things are working so much better. I know we're interacting with Lynn Ide a lot, and with other members of the Board of Education, and as people who are very active in politics, we've actually helped some of them to get elected, and I'm very, very, very happy with the Board of Education and also the administration, the teachers. I always say Windham is a great school system, and the key, I think, to the success of students, more so than the school system, which is in place and is doing so well and has the ability to educate everybody to the max, is parental involvement. And that's key too. And I know you're doing, you as a system are doing a lot more in encouraging parental involvement. Than was done back when I went to school.
Yeah, there's
sure.
a huge effort. We actually have a department for just family and community engagement.
Right.
Robinson Camacho runs that department.
Sure, got to have him on here sometime.
Yeah,
Yep.
He'd be
He
great.
hasn't been on yet. He'd be a great guest.
Yeah, he'd be a great guest to
Yeah.
have on, and he does wonderful things. But he works with his family liaisons, and he works with the schools, and all of the schools in conjunction with him, and in addition to him, do a wonderful job of trying to bring parents in. I named one of the parent activities. One of the things that actually, I'm glad you brought that up. We have started, and when we say we, Robinson and his department have started podcasts.
You're a team.
So we have started these podcasts, and the idea is sometimes with our families are very busy working, trying to do things for their families. So sometimes when we have events, it's as much as they want to be available, they can't be there. So one way we're starting to share information is by sending it directly into their homes at their convenience.
Great.
So we started like a playlist. We did a couple podcasts. The most recent one was the superintendent in our equity and multilingual department, which is talking about English learners. They did a wonderful a podcast talking about the different variations of that program, which the whole multilingual plus the world language department has well over 80 staff members, which is a significant part of our workforce. So it's a huge department. That podcast is wonderful. We're working on getting some of the podcasts to be in Spanish as well, and you'll hear more about this. Actually, some of the wonderful sports things, you're going to hear about that soon. They're going to do a podcast. So
I'd like to be able to gain access to that myself.
Yeah,
because that would help me a lot in understanding, getting into the weeds of how the school system operates.
So I know after the show, I'll make sure I get you access, but I'm sure we're going to be working on making sure it's visible on the website and easily accessible to everybody.
Well, let me just say something about podcasts, because this show is podcasted, and you can get the podcast on WYLI's website, or if you sign up for my emails at susan.johnson@cga.ct.gov, I blast the podcast of this show every single week. And so in addition to that, the show is also done again on Sunday at noon, and we also have the show. This particular show goes on cable access 2 weeks from now on Friday nights. So we really do a podcast here, and podcasts we've been doing for the last 3 years, and I get them out to people, and I'll send the podcast to this show to you. I always send it to the guest, and I'm glad to always do that. And maybe you can put it on your podcast as well.
Oh, thank you. We will actually take that information and I will pass it on. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, sure. It's another way to keep the community together. Because one of the things about with the parents and that sort of thing, the wonderful thing that I was so proud of this school district to think that you had the liaisons from each school to the parents, and so that they could go out and actually meet with the parents and just make them feel comfortable. And so we were talking about this in one of my education committee meetings, and they were talking about how can we get connected with our parents, and I said, well, my school district has community liaisons, and what do you know? It started happening all over the state. So this is another thing that helped school districts all throughout the state that Windham Public Schools did initially.
And I think they not only do they have them, they run them very well, and they're very powerful presence in our community.
I think this whole idea of the liaisons came out of one of those meetings that they had with parents. I remember sitting through, and it was an all-day meeting, and
A parent university.
Parent university, that's right. I was thinking parent college, but you're right, university. It's like what Central changed from a college to university, and Eastern.
Maybe it could have been college.
Yeah, no, that's too much information. But anyway, I think we were at that meeting when it was discussed. Somebody brought up the idea, and the school system ran with it eventually. And wow, I mean, because it came from the people. It really did.
We just recently had one for the fall. I know there'll be more planned in the future. We've worked really hard to bring it back, especially post-COVID. It was hard to do it in person for a while. Yeah. But we really love our parent university, and we look forward to having more of them. One thing I wanted to mention, because you were talking about our board, we just had a board meeting Wednesday, and one of the things we're trying to do is, I think excuse me if I'm not phrasing it right, but it's similar here sometimes in news stations, what's cool with our schools. So every couple of weeks, one of our schools is coming to present, and we actually had our newly named Windham Phoenix Academy, is previously called CORE. It's our alternative ed building that's out by where the old Berkshire Bank headquarters in North Windham.
Yep.
So they just did this wonderful, wonderful presentation where the students were speaking about some of the struggles they had and how this is giving them an opportunity to feel like they can succeed and make it through high school. And a matter of fact, that we have 6 students that weren't on track originally, but now are back on track to get their diploma in the 23-24 school year. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a massive success.
That is a lot.
And so we're really proud of that. And it was some of the, including board members and just adults in the audience, were getting emotional listening to the students and parents speak about the success. So we're very proud of that.
You should be very proud of that. That is something that I have always been a huge advocate of, having an alternative school, and we did back in the day, and then they took it away. And I'm so glad to see that you have the alternative school back. It is absolutely necessary for students to have that special space so that they can figure it out with professionals, and they can get their bearings. Because when you do that, then you're going to have somebody who's going to be successful when they get out of high school, and that is just very, very, very important to have that special space.
I'm sorry.
Very, very important.
We do this all the time. I do it all the time. No, you do too. Come on. Anyway, I think the alternative school idea is fantastic, because there's just some kids that have a different approach to things, and they just don't fit into the mainstream socially and academically. And I went to one of the biggest. I went to a school that was the biggest high school in New England at the time. New Britain High School only had one public high school for a town of 90,000 people back when I was in high school, before you ever came to New Britain, long before. And I thought it was too big. I felt overwhelmed, even though I was an athlete. I played ball and stuff. I still thought it was a bit much socially. I felt out of place, and especially when I was taking college level courses with kids whose parents were business people, teachers, lawyers, doctors, and my parents were not, and I felt lost, and I don't think I was ready for an alternative school or needed it, but I understand why some kids who I happened to know back then would have done a lot better in an alternative setting with much fewer people running around and making people crazy. So it's great. When we lost the alternative school here, Susan and I were very, very unhappy because we knew it was an important part of the whole system.
Yeah, the presentation, which obviously we put on YouTube, right, and then you could see the meeting. It was just a really, really nice to see just to hear from the students and their parents, and to be able to have honest conversation about some of the struggles they were facing, how things are turning around. It was just great. I'm trying to make sure I get every single school so no one feels neglected.
We want you to do that.
Yeah.
Don't let us sidetrack you.
No, you have not.
We will if you let us.
You have not at all.
Okay.
So Windham High School, while I'm mentioning them, and I know I mentioned their sports, we do a lot with Project Emo. They're a group we partner with in several of our buildings. So they're working to start up a peer mediation program at Windham High School. I think that's a great idea. A couple of the staff members, Neil O'Keefe and Melly Godbout, began starting this last year. So they're working to get this up and going, and there's going to be some team building work at the Adventure Park at Stores, and it's a comprehensive experience to get some of the students to be these leaders in peer mediation. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Peer mediation, just go into that just for a second,
Sure.
because I think that is just so important, because it teaches the interaction skills and how to come to agreements and how to work together. So it's such an important life skill.
I absolutely think, right, when you disagree or have a difference or need to resolve a conflict, I think it's a skill that I think even some adults struggle with.
There, absolutely. I think as
Absolutely.
we have moved into a society that, because of COVID, in some ways we're isolated, but also I've been thinking about community and the fact here we've got WILI. It's a local radio station. How many communities are that lucky to have a local community radio station? We used to have them, but we don't anymore. We used to have a lot of different connections in the community. We had the mills. We had all different types of places to work. And a lot of that closed up over the last 30, 40 years because of tax problems that occurred, or tax things that occurred during the 1980s under the federal government. And so now we're reclaiming some of that, and we're reclaiming community. We're going to get more businesses in our communities because a lot of the tax credits are now being given to people here in this country instead of having them go overseas. So this is really important, and it's a way to bring community back. But because of the isolation, we've lost a little bit of sense of community, and I think that these mediation skills are really, really important for having a sense of community and getting along and understanding, having an understanding of people who are now doing different types of work all over the place.
I absolutely agree with you. I 100% agree, and I couldn't agree more.
I just wanted to make that clear because I think that we've kind of lost track of the fact that we don't have that community, because a lot of the things where we used to just naturally work together kind of gone by the by.
Look, I go back a lot farther than you and you especially, and I can tell you stories about how people used to always be out in the street, and everybody knew everybody else. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have television back then.
Right.
That's how far I go back, and
Yes.
it makes a difference.
Yes, it does. It makes a
Right.
huge difference.
Yeah.
So this
I'll
is
stop. I won't go on.
No, but I want him to go. Keep going.
Oh yeah.
I want him to keep going.
Yeah. So I want to mention our middle school. So one of their highlights for November was that they're in their effort to improve literacy. We do part of our American Reading Company, we call it ARC, it's primary curriculum resource, is to do conferencing. The idea is if you're conferencing with students on Power Goals and frequently meeting with them and giving feedback on them, setting goals, monitoring the goal, and then keep going, and you're doing it frequently enough, students' reading levels will improve and their reading will improve. Well, the middle school did a great job, and they posted some extremely high rates from 88 to 100% completion rates, and they were really proud of that. And they're doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And just one thing on the middle school, even though we're talking November, we had our accountability index come out, our basically our report card, and the Windham Middle School had our largest increase, and they actually were our first school to get the number past pre-pandemic. It was close, just a little bit over, but we were really proud of that.
Yes.
So we want them to keep going. So we love what's happening there.
Well, middle school is tough. That's when kids are, changing as they get older, and it's when. I know when I went to junior high school in New Britain, it was 7, 8, and 9. And wow, it was quite a change.
As a proud dad of a 8th grader, yes, yes,
Yeah, okay.
I agree. Yeah,
Yep.
yes, and then Charles H. Barrow STEM Academy, our in-district magnet school,
Award-winning.
award-winning. Yes, and thank you for the segue. So for the second year in a row, they are a part of the U.S. News and World Report Best Middle School, placing in the top 40% of middle schools in the state of Connecticut. So we're really proud of them. They got that 2 years running.
Wow.
So we just wanted to make sure we gave them that shout out, and I know I have a couple other things, but now I'll at least covered every school at least once, and I could walk safely to my car at the end of the workday. Just kidding. Our pre-K students, are prepared. They put together more than 100 holiday cards for our veterans as part of this holiday card exchange.
That's
it's actually
sweet.
it's actually run out of the New Hampshire Department of Ed, but then they take these cards and they're sent to members of the military all across the country and abroad.
Great.
So that's awesome. And if you ever just want to feel good, you visit that early childhood center. Those kids will just make you feel great.
Sure.
Because it just and great stuff happens there. So that was really good. And then I have no concept of how much time we have, but the one thing I want to make sure
Too much.
Okay, no, I have plenty of things.
Okay.
So
Keep going.
I can keep going.
Yeah,
going,
go.
Neil.
Yeah,
Rock and roll.
You're on a roll.
We,
That's good.
We have a district survey committee. It was made up of administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, and secretaries, and non-affiliated employees. And we're working on, and it was talked about at the board meeting, a district survey that's going to be going out. And then the reason I say this is for any of the families listening, we're really striving to get an extremely high participation rate, because obviously one of the things Tracy talks about is if you want really meaningful feedback, right? You don't want to hear just from the people that are really positive or really negative. You want the whole sample size so you really can make meaningful changes
Sure.
to improve the district. So one of the things I know that the elementary schools you'll likely see if you're going to their conferences that's coming up in December next week, you'll have the opportunity to have laptop stationed with some of our liaisons or other staff members, and you can come in, and on your way or as you leave, you could do the survey there. And I'm glad I'm having an opportunity to say that, because we love getting feedback, because we can't improve without it.
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, getting feedback is huge, and it's something that getting people who are directly involved in what's going on and getting feedback from people who are right in the thick of it, really quite important. And so it's great that you've created a methodology for that.
Yes, and then and I know I mentioned them already, but one cool thing at Natchog that just happened recently, our 3rd and 4th graders there, they had a learning experience with their university partners. Eastern Connecticut did a read aloud of The Reluctant Dragon, and then they also partnered with UConn, who had guest scientists, and they presented bird of praise and weather information, and all those experiences you may not readily get. And so we were mentioning Eastern, who's right here, and UConn, who's I always say down the road. So it's nice to have those partners work with us and work with our students, and our students love when they come.
Of course, taking advantage of the university systems is really spot on. I can't think of a better thing to do, and it's great that they're willing to come here as well. I think that that's great.
Yeah, and so thank you for saying that, and I'm just checking if I've got all the major stuff here. For the public, I think we've really gotten it out, and the survey was like super important that I made sure I shared. But yeah, the as you could see, and the highlights I was sharing, these were really shared as our November highlights.
Right.
So like we've been doing this once a month. So like about the same amount of information we share. Tracy shares her staff our convocation, which was called Living Our Story. So every month our story is shared with the staff, all the highlights, and we try to make sure we highlight all our schools because there's always something awesome happening everywhere.
Yes.
And the things you were talking about. So
Sounds like a great way to run a school system. I like it.
yeah. I'll take it.
No wonder our results are getting a lot better. And
Yeah,
you know, I coached Little League for almost 40 years and out in the community, and I can tell the difference that the public schools, the way they're operated now, have made in the lives of these kids and the parents and whatnot. And the fact that kids are signing up for Little League, and we got girls playing. I coach girls, and when a parent signs a kid up for Little League, that parent's involved in the school,
Right?
And you feel good about it. And the kids, I just wish we had more kids, and we're going to be putting lights at the Little League field. The town is using some of the ARPA money to light up the fields so the kids can play under the lights. That they're going to love that. So that's even going to get us more kids. And one of the things that the school system has always done is helped us to recruit kids for Little League, and I'm sure they helped the midget football program too. I'm not involved in that, but have been involved in Little League for a long time, and it's great. So I see playing sports as a part of their education, and Tracy knows that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
She knows what you're
she's got it down. But it is a sign to me that kid is getting parental involvement for his schoolwork too, or hers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but one of the things that we have here is we have a lot of parents who are maybe working one or two jobs at the same time and raising the family. And so having the podcast that you have, having the chance for that kind of connection with the community is really, really important. And I think that's one of the things that will make people feel like they really belong.
Yeah, so we agree. So we're continuing to make sure we're seeking input from our families. Tracy actually has a parent advisory group that she meets with monthly. I think the last meeting got canceled so that we could watch our state tournament game and the football game.
Sure.
Even though we didn't like the result.
It wasn't a good game,
but still you watch
it was a great season.
Great season, right?
Yeah, you can't win them all.
No, so
Not often.
So we are constantly seeking information from our parents and trying to include them. And like we said with the podcasts, if we can't get them because they are working one or two jobs, how can we share that information with them? And then you touched on something with the Little League. What sometimes gets overshadowed is the impact and success Windham Public Schools has had on many of our students. So some of the podcasts we might be trying to do in the future is celebrating some of our students that are in college and beyond and the successes they've had to just show they came from Windham.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so
I thought about that for a long time.
So actually, recently we were bumping into, we were somewhere with our athletic director, and he recognized two of his former soccer players.
Yeah.
And they had just gone to a conference, an engineering conference in Nevada, paid for by UConn. So that's something that should be talked about.
Oh yeah, that should be promoted.
That's huge.
That's
that
right.
is
That's right.
gigantic.
And that goes with scholarship as well, and success in beyond Windham High School. Once they leave Windham High School, that should be trumpeted.
Yes,
it should be because I think it makes everybody prouder. It makes everybody more positive about school. And it can't help but produce better performances in some, and that's what it's all about. I mean, you seems like and I think the way that athletic teams are doing much better at Windham High School and probably in the middle school too in recent years is attributable in large part to the kids' success in school, because I think it spills over into athletics and vice versa, and it just works together so well, and so. I am, as somebody who has had a lot of education and a lot of public education, I am so impressed with Windham Public Schools and the administration, the teachers, and we always have been. And I'm very much impressed with our assistant superintendent, Neil Weathers.
Yes.
And also and also with our state representative Susan Johnson, 15 years on the education committee.
Yeah.
and lots of great results.
Well, yeah, and we'll be visiting. I think that the chairman of the education committee will be coming to visit sometime soon.
Yes, Jeff.
He wants to get around
Jeff
and
Curry.
see all the different schools, and we have a lot of things to share with Jeff, Representative Curry, the House Chair of Education. So I'm very excited to show him all the work that we're doing. And he was actually here for the most recent thing with the disaffected students and that kind of thing. And that's where I learned about the news alternative school that we have. So I'm very thrilled that we have that and that you're doing the podcasts. And it just is going to give a new way for people to have a sense of community. We have 1 minute left. Neil,
almost 1 minute.
and so we want to make sure Neil has a chance to say
Final words from Neil.
Final words in terms of what you want us to think about.
Oh, so I appreciate that. And one, thank you both for having me on. Anytime I get a chance to talk about Wyndham Public Schools is like a great chance. It's a great place. Like we have, I always say, it's simply this: we have the best families, the best students, and the best staff, and we're really proud of what's going on there. So I really appreciate. You'll never get a decline from me if you want to talk about how great our
Wonderful.
school
Well,
system is.
thank
Good to
you
know.
thank you for being here, and thank you for your positive attitude. With the positive attitude that you have at the leadership of the school system, yourself and Tracy, is just obvious, and it makes a difference. I know it does.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Well, it's true, and it's great to have you on, and we hope you'll. I haven't seen you for a year. Hope you'll
Yeah.
come back sooner than that.
Okay, I consider it done.
In 2024.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
both.
you
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you. This is Dennis O'Brien with Susan Johnson and Neil Weathers, right. Neil Weathers, the Assistant Superintendent of Wyndham Public Schools, will be back next week with another great show.